She looked at me with teary eyes and called me dad, said she'd be the daughter I never had. But then she turned my own son against me and smiled while I watched him walk away. I still remember the first time I held my son in my arms, Adam. He was barely minutes old, but his tiny hands gripped my finger like he already knew the world could be cruel, and I was the only one who could shield him. My wife, Sarah, lay exhausted on the hospital bed, her lips curling into the faintest smile as she whispered, "He's yours now. Our future." For years, that child became the center of my universe. Sarah and I poured everything into raising him. Late nights filled with lullabies and fevered foreheads, mornings with messy cereal and cartoons echoing through the house. We were a family, imperfect, chaotic, but whole. Until one night shattered it all. It was raining. I told her not to drive. The roads were slick, and visibility was low. But Sarah had insisted she'd be fine. "Just a quick trip to the store," she smiled. "Adam wants chocolate chip pancakes tomorrow, and we're out of flour." She never came back. When the police called, their words were a blur. A drunk driver. A flipped car. Death on impact. I remember standing in the doorway, the phone still pressed to my ear as Adam came running down the hall in his pajamas, clutching his toy dinosaur, asking, "Where's Mommy?" How do you tell a child that the light in his world has gone out forever? I couldn't. I just pulled him into my arms, held him tighter than I ever had, and whispered, "It's okay, buddy. I've got you. I'll always have you." But I lied. I didn't have him. Not the way he needed. I was drowning myself in grief, in guilt, in the crushing loneliness that comes with losing the one person who made your house a home. And while I mourned my wife, I failed my son. The first few years, I tried to fake it. I made his lunches, attended his school plays, cheered him on at soccer games. But at night, when the silence crept in, I'd sit in the dark with a bottle and memories that refused to fade. He saw me cry. He saw me scream. He saw the cracks forming in the man who was supposed to be unbreakable. And those cracks, they grew. By the time Adam was a teenager, the warmth in our home had frozen over. Conversations became one-word exchanges. Dinners were eaten in silence. He'd retreat to his room, I to mine. We were strangers living under the same roof, held together by obligation and the ghost of a woman we both missed differently. I wanted to fix things. God knows I tried. I offered road trips, weekends away, even therapy. But Adam had built walls I couldn't climb, and every attempt I made to reach him only seemed to push him further away. When he left for college, I stood at the door waving goodbye, pretending to be proud, pretending I wasn't silently begging him to turn back and say, "I'll miss you, Dad." He never did. And so the silence returned, heavier now, emptier. My house felt like a tomb, filled with echoes of laughter that used to be, and shadows of the family I once had. Until one evening, everything changed. It was the fall of Adam's third year in college when he brought her home, Emily. From the moment she walked through my door, she radiated warmth. Wavy chestnut hair, a quiet smile, and eyes that held something soft, familiar. She stepped forward, extended her hand, and said, "Hi, Mr. Hayes. I've heard so much about you." I smiled, surprised. "Only the good things, I hope." She laughed, not the polite kind, but the kind that fills a room. "Of course. Adam talks about you all the time." That one sentence. It broke me a little, because I hadn't heard Adam say more than 5 words to me in months. But over dinner, I watched something I hadn't seen in years. My son smiling, engaging, laughing. Because of her. Emily asked about my work, my late wife, even the story behind the ancient watch on my wrist. She listened, really listened, as if my words mattered. After the dishes were cleared, she offered to help me wash up. And as we stood by the sink, she glanced at a family photo on the counter, Sarah, me, a toddler Adam, and said, "You can feel the love in that picture." Something in me cracked open. That night, as she hugged me goodbye, she whispered, "Thanks for having me. I never had a real dad growing up. You? You remind me of the kind of father I used to wish for." She walked out the door, and I just stood there, stunned. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as a broken man, not as a failed father, but as someone worthy of affection. And when she started calling me dad, casually at first, like a joke, it felt like the universe giving me a second chance. A daughter, a connection, a lifeline. But I didn't know then. She wasn't a lifeline. She was the storm I had invited in. The irony is, when poison enters your bloodstream slowly enough, you don't even realize you're dying. That's what Emily was, not an intruder crashing through the walls of my life, but a slow leak through the cracks I never bothered to seal. And by the time I realized it, it was already too late. After that first visit, she became a regular presence. At first, it was always with Adam. A weekend dinner here, a game night there. But then, she started stopping by alone, dropping off muffins she'd bake, bringing groceries because you shouldn't be lifting heavy stuff at your age, or simply checking in. "It's quiet here," she once said, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, cupping her coffee. "Too quiet for someone like you. You're too kind to be alone." I brushed it off. But inside, her words struck like arrows into wounds I thought had healed. She brought life back into the house. Candles lit in the evenings. Music humming softly from the old record player. Curtains finally opened to let the sun in. The cold air of absence began to warm. Not because Adam was around, but because she was. And Adam? He seemed lighter. Not with me, but with her. I'd watch him glance at her with a fondness I hadn't seen in years. He listened when she spoke, smiled when she teased, held her hand even when no one was watching. She was good for him. That's what I told myself. That's what I wanted to believe. But then the visits started to shift. It wasn't just cookies and coffee anymore. It was long, intimate conversations. Late night chats by the fireplace. One evening, I opened up about a fight I'd had with Adam years ago, something I never told anyone. I'd slapped him once. Just once. He was 12. He'd said something cruel about Sarah. Something that hit me like a dagger to the chest. I reacted before I thought. The moment my hand struck his cheek, I saw the look in his eyes. Betrayal, confusion, fear. I broke down right after, begging for forgiveness. He never brought it up again. I failed him that day. I whispered to Emily, eyes downcast. She reached over, gripped my hand, and said, "No, you're human. And you were grieving too. You made a mistake. But that doesn't erase everything else you did right." Her words felt like salve. But I didn't see what she was doing. Not then. Soon after, Adam started becoming distant again. Canceled dinners. Missed calls. When I finally managed to get him on the phone, his voice was clipped, cold. "I'm busy, Dad. Work's insane." That's all he ever said. But Emily kept coming. Always with news. "He's tired," she'd say. "He's stressed. He's thinking about switching jobs." But then she started saying other things. "He's angry," she confessed one evening, sipping red wine on the porch. "About what?" She hesitated. "The past. Your fights. The way you used to shut him out. He talks to me about it sometimes." Guilt tightened in my chest. "I tried, Emily. I really tried." "I know you did," she said. "But Adam, he's hurting. And sometimes hurt doesn't just disappear. It festers." I nodded, swallowing hard. Days passed. Then weeks. Adam didn't show up for Thanksgiving, or my birthday, or even the anniversary of Sarah's death, a day we always spent together, visiting her grave. Instead, Emily came alone. And each time she did, she brought more whispers. "I think he's trying to protect himself," she'd say. "He thinks if he gets too close, you'll disappear again. Like his mom." She always followed those words with something soft, a gentle touch on my arm, a teary smile, a murmured, "You're still his father." But her words were blades coated in sugar. One evening, she showed up in tears. "I wasn't going to tell you this," she began, "but Adam, he said some things about you, things that worried me. What kind of things? I asked, heart sinking. She looked hesitant, as if torn. Then she whispered, he said you used to hit him. Not just once. That you'd lose your temper. Scare him. I stood frozen. That's not true. I lost it one time. One. I never. I believe you, she said quickly. I do. But he believes what he remembers. I didn't sleep that night. My thoughts raced in circles, every memory warped by doubt. Had I been that father? Did my grief blind me to how I treated my son? Was Emily right? Was he right? But the real question, the one I should have asked, was this. Why was she telling me this? And why only when he wasn't around? That winter, I started to feel like a guest in my own relationship with my son. Every connection I had with him was now filtered through her. Every message, every update, every plan, she was the middle layer. And yet, I trusted her. Because she called me dad. Because I was desperate to believe that someone still saw me that way. But I didn't know she was sculpting a new narrative, one conversation at a time. And like clay, she was molding Adam into something unrecognizable. Until the night it all collapsed. The night he turned away from me, the sky was calm, unnervingly calm. No thunder, no wind, no rain. Just a suffocating stillness, like the world knew something irreversible was about to happen. I had been waiting for them. Emily had texted earlier, Adam wants to talk. We'll come by tonight. It felt like hope. After months of silence, after the chasm that had grown between us, I thought maybe this was it, a reconciliation. Maybe he finally saw through the fog and wanted his father back. I even cooked dinner. The old dishes Sarah used to make, Adam's favorites. Chicken parmesan, garlic mashed potatoes, chocolate pudding for dessert. I set the table, lit candles, opened the windows to let in the spring air. I even wore the dark blue shirt Adam once said made me look less like a grumpy accountant. I was nervous. Hope is cruel that way. It paints illusions so vivid you forget how fragile they are. When the doorbell rang, I rushed to open it. And there he was. My son. My flesh and blood. But something was wrong. His eyes, once wide with warmth, once full of laughter and curiosity, were hard. Distant. He didn't smile, didn't hug me. He walked past me like I was a stranger. Emily followed behind, her expression unreadable. I tried to force a smile. Come in. Dinner's ready. I thought we could. Dad, Adam interrupted. His voice was firm, final. We're not staying long. I froze. Emily looked away. Okay, I stammered. What's going on? He stood in the center of the living room, arms crossed, eyes locked on me like a judge awaiting confession. I've been talking to Emily, he said, and to some of Mom's old journals. Things she never told me back then. My heart skipped. What are you talking about? She wrote about you. How after she lost her job you got cold. How you shut down. How sometimes you disappear for days, not physically, but emotionally. She wrote about the things you threw when you got angry. The words you said. I stepped back, shaking my head. No, she was overwhelmed. We were both grieving. She said she sometimes felt scared of you, he continued, eyes narrowing. And then I started remembering. The yelling, the drinking, the night you hit me. It was once, Adam. Once. And You think once doesn't leave a scar? He snapped. You think a single wound can't bleed forever? My legs gave out. I sank onto the couch, my breath shallow. Who do you think raised me after Mom died? He said, pacing now, voice rising. You disappeared. You were a ghost. I cooked my own meals. Did my own laundry. Learned to stop knocking on your door because you wouldn't answer anyway. I was drowning, I cried. And I didn't know how to swim with a child clinging to my back. And that's my fault? He shouted. That I existed? Silence. A suffocating, knife-edged silence. Emily stepped forward, gently touched his arm. Adam, maybe we should. No, he turned back to me. I wanted answers. but all I see is a man who built a cage of his own grief and locked us both in. He turned toward the door. Wait, I said, standing shakily. Son, please. I'm trying now. I've changed. Haven't I? Emily, tell him. You've seen me. You've seen who I am now. But she didn't say anything. She just lowered her gaze. Emily? I whispered, my voice cracking. That's when she looked up and smiled. It was subtle, almost imperceptible. But it was there. That tiny upward twitch of her lips. Not sympathy. Not pity. But satisfaction. And I understood. In one horrifying flash of clarity, I saw the truth. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a natural rift between father and son. This was designed. She had planted the seeds, watered the doubts, fed the fire. And I had given her everything she needed. She called me dad. She gave me the illusion of connection, of redemption, of family. Also, she could tear it away when I reached for it. Adam, I said one last time, stepping toward him. I love you. He paused at the door, turned slightly, and for a brief second, I saw something flicker in his eyes, hesitation. Memory. That little boy clutching his dinosaur. But then he looked at Emily. She gently touched his hand. And he turned his back to me. Walked out the door. Didn't even close it behind him. Just left it wide open, like a grave with no headstone. I stood there, staring at that open door, the wind curling in around my feet, and I realized something unbearable. He was never coming back. And Emily? She had won. Grief is loud. Anger is louder. But revenge? Revenge is quiet. The night Adam walked away, something inside me died. But something else, something cold, something sharp, woke up. For 2 days, I didn't leave the house. I didn't eat, didn't sleep. I just sat in Sarah's old reading chair, listening to the clock tick and tick and tick. Time was passing, and with every second, the pain twisted deeper into my chest like a rusted nail. How had I not seen it? How had I let her in? Emily. Sweet, smiling Emily, the daughter I thought I'd never have. The same woman who'd gently taken my hand and whispered, "You remind me of the father I always wished for." Now she had my son. And she had me, broken, discarded, erased. But here's the thing about being broken. If you're smart, you rebuild with sharper edges. I began with small steps. Nothing rash. Nothing emotional. Just observation. Emily had an Instagram page for her lifestyle and wellness brand. Clean aesthetics, daily affirmations, the kind of curated vulnerability that made strangers fall in love with her online. Her follower count had doubled in the last year. And in every photo where Adam appeared, smiling beside her, holding her hand, kissing her forehead, I saw what she was doing. She wasn't just loving him. She was branding him. Her caption said it all. He's my safe place. We've overcome so much together. Healing begins when you remove toxicity, even when it hurts. And the comments. Oh my God, you're so strong. Glad you cut the negative people out. You deserve better, always. She was building a story. One where she was the survivor, the savior, the star. And I was the villain. I called in a favor, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Peter, an old friend from my finance days. We both started as auditors before I left the corporate world to start my own firm. He'd stayed in the shadows, compliance, fraud analysis, background investigations. Emily Carter? He asked, sipping whiskey over a video call. What am I looking for? Everything, I said. Every lie she's ever told. He raised a brow. You're serious. I'm methodical. He smiled. That's worse. While Peter dug through her history, I played the long game. I reached out to Adam, just once. A message. If she ever turns on you the way she turned you against me, remember, I'm still your father. He didn't reply, but I knew he read it. That was enough. I started rebuilding my life, visibly, publicly. I joined a charity board, started volunteering, reconnected with Sarah's sister, Monica, a lawyer who never liked Emily's too perfect demeanor. We started a podcast together, Men Who Mourn, helping fathers cope with grief and guilt. People began listening. More importantly, people began watching. I didn't hide my flaws. I talked about my mistakes, my regrets, the night I slapped Adam, and how I lived with that shame, my drinking, my depression. I told the truth, because the truth, unlike lies, doesn't rot under scrutiny. Emily's story relied on one thing: silence from me. And I shattered that silence, not with rage, but with reflection. 3 months later, Peter called. "She's clever," he said, "but not that clever." "What did you find?" "She's been married before. Briefly. Guy named Lucas Rayner. Lasted 8 months. Filed for annulment citing emotional manipulation." "Where is he now?" "Off the grid. But I found emails. He accused her of isolating him from his friends, turning him against his sister, and maxing out a joint credit card under his name." I said nothing. "That's not all," Peter continued. "She changed her name 5 years ago. Used to be Emily Sinclair. Got fired from a nonprofit for inappropriate relationships with donors." My stomach twisted. She targets lonely men, broken men, then rewrites their story to make herself the victim. "And Adam?" I asked. "He's just her newest project." I didn't send that information to Adam. Not yet. Instead, I sent it to Monica, my sister-in-law, the lawyer. She contacted Lucas, asked for a statement. He agreed to go public, under condition of anonymity. She wrote a blog post, titled, "The Pattern Behind the Smile, When Kindness is a Weapon." It wasn't slander. It was carefully worded, backed with records. No names mentioned directly. But anyone who knew Emily would know. Especially when she commented on the post, pretending to be outraged, and accidentally confirmed a detail only she could know. Within hours, Reddit threads lit up. Forums dissected her influencer brand. Past boyfriends came forward. Someone posted about how she once tried to replace their dying mother in their father's life. The cracks began to form. But I wasn't done. Not yet. The final blow came from within. A mutual friend, someone Adam hadn't seen in years, messaged him a link. The podcast episode. My voice, raw, breaking. I wasn't a perfect father. I failed in ways I'll regret forever. But I love my son. I still do. And I know who I was in my darkest hour, and who pulled me further into that darkness, smiling, while pretending to shine a light. Adam called me that night. For the first time in over a year. I didn't answer. Let him sit in the quiet for a while. Let him feel what I felt: abandonment, doubt, shame. But I called back an hour later. His voice trembled. "Dad, don't say anything," I said. "Just ask yourself one question. What? When she told you I was the villain, was she holding your hand or was she holding the knife?" Silence. Then, "I think I need to leave her." I said nothing. Because now, finally, the storm was hers to weather. The night Adam left her, it rained hard. Not poetic drizzle, not soft cinematic rain. It poured like the sky was finally weeping for all the lies that had lived too long. He showed up at my door soaking wet. Hair dripping, eyes hollow, shoulders caved inward like he'd finally seen the monster hiding behind the mask. And realized he'd let her wear it for too long. I opened the door slowly, unsure of what to expect. He didn't speak. Just stepped forward, and for the first time in what felt like a lifetime, hugged me. We didn't say a word. Sometimes silence says everything. He stayed that night, and the next. And then, gradually, we began rebuilding something we had both thought was lost forever. He asked questions. I answered honestly. He cried. I didn't stop him. He apologized. I didn't forgive him. Not immediately. Because some wounds don't heal with a single sorry. But I was willing to try. Emily, on the other hand, vanished from his life like fog under sunlight. Blocked his number. Deleted all their pictures. Removed his name from every platform. For someone who once promised forever, she erased him like he was a typo in her story. But she didn't go quietly. 3 weeks later, an email arrived in my inbox. No subject. No body. Just a video attachment. I almost deleted it. But something made me click. The screen flickered to life. It was footage of me, sitting in the living room, talking, pouring whiskey, laughing, saying things about Sarah, about Adam. Dark things. Twisted things. Out of context, they sounded terrifying. Sometimes I think he ruined her, I was saying. If he hadn't been born, maybe she'd still be alive. My breath caught in my throat. The date on the corner of the video? 7 months ago. Back when Emily used to interview me for her blog. Back when I trusted her. Opened up to her. Venting things I never meant to be recorded. The video cut. A new clip played. This time, I was asleep, drunk, slurring in my chair. Emily's voice, soft, sweet, sickening, whispered behind the camera. You see, Adam? This is who your father really is. The broken man I've tried to protect you from. I sat there, staring at the screen, trembling. She hadn't just turned him against me. She had been collecting me. Curating a monster. This wasn't just betrayal. It was documentation. Evidence. In her hands, I was no longer a man. I was a story. One she could manipulate, edit, package, and destroy. A final message followed the video. You may have turned him now. But remember, I built the narrative. And narratives don't die. They evolve. Just like I do. And just like that, she disappeared. No forwarding address. No public post. Nothing. Months passed. Adam and I tried to move forward. We cooked meals together. Laughed again. He even started seeing a therapist. We talked about Sarah. We mourned her properly, together. But I never stopped watching my back. Because revenge is rarely a one-way street. Emily may have lost Adam. But I realized something chilling. She never really wanted him. She wanted me. My grief. My guilt. My legacy. She wanted to rewrite my entire existence and leave her signature at the bottom. And maybe, in some twisted way, she still did. Because even now, sometimes, I wake up wondering, was I really the villain she claimed I was? Or did I just become him? Trying to prove I wasn't?